Hello, this is Dylan from British English Coach, and this is another video in the Master Polite English course. Now, one thing we all need to do at some point in our life is to complain. Now, usually it's a good idea to complain politely when we're not satisfied, when we're not happy with a service or a product. Then it's usually best to complain politely. But of course, if you complain politely and you don't get a suitable response, you may have to get pretty direct. So in life we may have to complain about many things. Complain about, for example, the food in a restaurant, or we may complain about something we've bought in a shop, or we may complain about someone's behavior, or we may complain when someone has promised to do something but they didn't do it. So let's look at an example of a time when we actually have to complain. So as you can see, we have what looks to be a restaurant, and we have the waiter standing outside. He doesn't look particularly busy. Maybe he's just taking a break, which is fine. Maybe he's been working very hard. We don't know. But this is a very common situation where we have to complain about the food or the service in a restaurant. So let's imagine after nearly an hour of waiting, I asked for chicken and a bottle of red wine, and this is what I received. Doesn't really look like chicken, does it? That looks more like a steak. So, how could you complain to the waiter when he arrives with your food? Well, you could say something like, "There seems to be a problem with my order. I think I asked for chicken, not steak." Now here I've used the phrase "there seems to be." Okay, now remember, that makes me sound a little less certain. Doesn't make me sound very direct and very sure. Maybe I made the mistake. It's unlikely, but by saying there seems to be a problem, I'm suggesting that that's a small possibility. But I'm hoping that the waiter will say, "I'm very sorry, I made a mistake. I'll bring you some steak. I'll bring you your chicken, in a moment." Now also, I think, again, adds to that uncertain feeling, which makes you sound a bit more polite and a bit less direct. Now, you could also say, "Sorry to bother you, but I think I asked for chicken, not steak." Now this again, "sorry to bother you," is very polite. Now to be honest, I'm not sure I would use it with a waiter if he had just brought me the incorrect dish. But maybe if the waiter's very busy and perhaps I need an extra fork or some serviettes, or I'd like him to bring me a sauce which I don't have on the table, then I would use something like that. "Sorry to bother you, but could you bring me another fork? My one fell on the floor," for example. It's very, very appropriate for these situations because the waiter is probably going to help you resolve your small problem. Now you could be very formal and say, "There has been a misunderstanding. I think I asked for chicken, not steak." Again, because you're being very formal here, you might decide to say, "I asked for chicken, not steak," and decide not to use "I think." There's really nothing wrong with being very direct if the complaint is serious. Now you could again give the waiter the option, "Would you mind changing this? I think I asked for chicken, not steak." So hopefully the waiter would say, "Of course, sir, no problem," and change it for me. Now, sometimes we have to express our dissatisfaction, but we'd still like to stay polite. So something like, "I'm afraid I'm not satisfied with the service." Okay, it makes it very clear that I'm not happy, but by using "afraid," I'm softening the complaint a little bit. "I asked for chicken, not steak, and I've been waiting for nearly an hour." So you're providing two reasons, two explanations for your dissatisfaction here. So hopefully the waiter will do his best to resolve the problem. Now sometimes the complaints are too serious, and when it's really serious, it's probably best to use direct language. Polite language probably won't achieve the results. Try to avoid swearing, and it's probably a good idea if you can to say please, and if the problem is resolved, then make sure you say thank you. Try not to get too aggressive, count to 10, count to 20 if you need to, but if it's a serious problem, or if they've tried to solve the problem and have failed, then you have to use direct language. So as I said at the beginning, polite language is not always the right solution. Okay, so good luck when you're complaining the next time you're given the wrong food in a restaurant. Speak to you soon.